Hey everyone, welcome back to 5 Minutes of Photography. I am David Shaw, and today we're going to be talking about shutter speed. So I am standing next to a channel of the South Platte River, not too far from southwest Denver, and I'm standing next to a little beaver dam, which you might be able to hear spilling over in the background. And so what I'm going to do is show you the effects on water of what different shutter speed is. But first, I want to take a moment to just mention exactly what shutter speed is. So inside your camera, there is a opening and closing shutter that opens, exposes your sensor or your film to light, and then closes, stopping that light and stopping the exposure from happening. The length of time that it's open is your shutter speed. So how does that affect your image? First of all, it controls light. So in our last talk, we talked about aperture and how that, using an opening iris in your lens, will control the amount of light entering and closing. The shutter speed does the same thing, except by opening and closing and exposing the shutter itself. Now, so it controls light. So the longer your shutter speed's open, the more light is able to access your image. And number two, it controls blur. And so a long shutter speed will allow things in motion to create a blur, which could be good or bad. It can also emphasize camera shake. If you're hand holding and you try to use too long of a shutter speed, you might end up with a blurry image because you can't hold your camera steady for that period of time, which is why tripods are helpful if you're going to do long exposures. But the blur is a big part of composition in nature photography and all kinds of photography, sports photography. And so understanding how to take advantage of blur and advantage of a long shutter speed is what we're going to demonstrate today. So behind me here, there's a little section of flowing water in the creek bed, and there's a couple of little spillovers of water on the beaver dam itself. And so I'm going to walk over here and make a few images of that, and then show you what we get. So you can see in those images how the fast shutter speed causes the water to basically stop in place. And so you can see little individual droplets, you can see the textures on the surface of the water quite clearly. And then in longer shutter speeds, you can see how the water on the trickle-down portion just blurs into this smooth form, and the water on the just the rippled portion of the surface of the river becomes a much smoother, almost blurry, kind of low clarity kind of look. And so you can see how in a water moving environment, you can get a lot of these different effects simply by adjusting shutter speed. But it's not just these kinds of shots. You can also use shutter speed to create abstract images. Now looking around this forest I'm sitting in, I'm going to snap a couple of photos of what that looks like when you purposely jiggle the camera and cause in-camera motion blur. So all you have to do to create an image like that is merely move your camera around while your shot is ongoing. And so I'll do that right now. So you can see with those shots, you're able to create these kind of abstract, interesting images that of a landscape that otherwise is just kind of brown. And so being able to play with your shutter speed and understanding the impact that your shutter will have on your final image is definitely one of those key portions of photography. Landscape photography, motion photography, sports photography, no matter what photography you're talking about, the shutter speed is going to play an extremely important role in how your final images come out. So, homework assignment. Take some images. I want you to take an image of a moving object that blurs. I want you to take a picture of a moving object that's sharp. I want you to take a blurry image of a steady object and see how those kind of act. And then go ahead and create one of these abstracts like I just showed you. See what you can get, see what you find, and come over to my Facebook group. It's called DWS Photo Support, and share what you're getting. Let's talk about it, and let's answer questions. Thanks so much for joining me for another 5 minutes of photography. And as always, I'm David Shaw. Feel free to get in touch when you got questions. All right, take care.